So let's get started. So welcome to Gabi School. This is the first day for the part time. We'll get started with introducing the school, introducing who I am, everything, inshallah. So let me share my screen. So, so let's get started. So the first thing would be just introducing the school and what we are. So we'll start. What is Gabi School? Our mission, vision, and goal, and who's behind Gabi School. If you watched the lectures or training material, you might have seen this video, this slide. So, what is Gabi School? Gabi School is an immersive online coding bootcamp designed to take students from knowing zero code to becoming a confident software developer. The school uses the latest technologies such as Zoom, Slack, custom learning platform to help the students feel like they're in the physical class. So, what is our mission? Our mission is to become the best place to produce excellent students and leaders. Our vision is to empower each student to dream big, become a problem solvers, and unlock opportunities for themselves and for the next generation. Our goal is to train you into self-sufficient versatile developer through 16 weeks. The part-time would be 20 weeks or a little bit more than that, maybe 21 weeks, to 16 weeks of coding every waking hour. So you'll be coding almost every day to become a amazing developer, inshallah. So who's behind Gabi School? I'm the founder, Duran Ali. I live in Minnesota. People who know Minnesota, I live in St. Cloud, which is a small city about an hour away from Minneapolis. So it is very cold here now, a lot of snow. Most of you are from Minnesota. My background, I found several businesses. One business called Alif Cloud, another one Sahel Solutions, graphic design, web design, things like that. And I also graduated from bootcamp myself. So I went to college, 2 year college, and then I went to a bootcamp, 9 month long bootcamp, and it was very intense. So I'm bringing that experience to this school and everything I learned. And I also worked at that bootcamp, at that same bootcamp. I worked for a year in that bootcamp, and I was a leader student, and I was also a supervisor for a student and things like that. So I worked in the different roles in that bootcamp. So I understand everything the student needs to kind of succeed. I have a wife and three children, two girls and one boy. Alhamdulillah. And my hobbies are basketball. I don't play basketball that much, but I love watching basketball and things like that, talking about it. I also love technology, as you guys can see, and astronomy and science, general science, biology, science, things like that. That's kind of like my favorite stuff. An interesting fact. About a couple of years ago, about 3 years ago, I went to San Diego. That's where I used to live. I went to San Diego, and a friend of mine asked me if we could go to skydiving. And I was like, skydiving? We're Somalis. We don't do skydiving. What are you talking about? And I was kind of skeptical. And we went to the skydiving place, and I was like, "You go," and I'm not going, bro. I'm not gonna hurt myself. So they were like, "Okay, it's gonna be safe." They put a harness on me and everything. There was a guy holding me, and I was like, what are we doing?" And then I saw myself jumping from the airplane, and it was very terrifying. I never did anything like that in my life, so but it was interesting. So yeah, so that's about me, my background and the school, inshallah. So now let's get to the meat of the first part of the school of the lecture, which is the procedures and everything you need to know to succeed in this school, basically. So the first thing to know is the attendance. Another thing would be filling out forms. So I'll show you how to fill out forms. Every time you finish an assignment, you'll fill out a form. Another thing would be asking for help. That's really important in this school. If you get stuck, we also use something called IWY, and I'll show you what that means. We have a grading scale. We also assess students every week. So every Friday, you'll be assessed whatever you learned that week. We have a schedule. The part-time group, they have a schedule, and we'll talk about tuition and refunds and things like that. So attendance is a must. So there is, the school, it goes really fast. It goes speed of light. So I recommend you to not miss one class. And if you miss a class, make sure to watch the lecture and do your best to catch up. It might look easy at the beginning. The HTML, CSS might look a little easy for some people, but it will go really fast and it will get to a very difficult parts of the school. So make sure that you never fall behind and miss a lecture. And if you miss a lecture, we have a recording. So make sure you watch the recording before the next lecture. So before the next lecture, give yourself time. Maybe you missed today. Make sure in the morning, like 5 a.m., you wake up and you watch the lecture. And about 6 or 7 a.m., you start working on assignment and you finish it before you even go to work. Because if you go to work, most of you are working and you start from like 9 and you wait until like 4 p.m. and then just you run out of time, and then the next lecture comes and things just come up, catch up, and you see yourself buried in assignments, and it will be hard for you to catch up. So I would recommend you to 100% be here every day. It's just 4 hours, and inshallah, you will succeed. We don't. So students may miss no more than 2 days. We extended that to 4 days because of a lot of things that I've learned from the students. So 4 days, and if you miss in any day, you have to let me know at least a week ahead of time. Would be best to let me know if there's something coming up, if there's circumstances, something is happening. Let me know. Communication is the best way to succeed in this school, because I know what you need and I know how you can succeed. So I'll tell you, okay, the next lesson, this is what you need. So you could do it ahead of time, and maybe you'll be in a better position that way. So yeah, just keep in mind, if you are missing, communicate with me always. Filling out forms. I'll show you how to fill out forms. So we have something called daily forms. We also have weekly forms. We have quarterly forms. Every 4 weeks we have forms that you fill out. So all these forms make sure that you are in your assignments are done, and your weekly assessments are done also. So that's how we grade. So I just look at the form. If I have a question, I'll contact you. Sometimes we will do one-on-one, so I'll sit with you and we'll talk about what you did. But most of the time throughout the week, you will fill out, you'll send. I'll check your code. I'll check the form you fill out, and then I'll go from there. So forms are a must. And also we have something called training material, which is a curriculum system, a student portal where you could go, and inshallah I'll go over it and I'll show you what it is. And actually, it would be easier for me to just show you right now, since we're here. So we'll talk about. I'll show you this training material, and I'll show you also the forms that you need to fill. So if you don't have access to to the training material, let me know. So it's this website, tm.gabischool.com. TM stands for training material. So when you log in, this is where you come. This is my demo account. You will have a profile here. Your information will be right here. You could always edit your information and go here and you could edit your email password, all this information, add your picture and things like that. Um, and here you will see the assignments. So these assignments are here because we put it in our system. And every time you finish an assignment, we'll grade it and it will say passed. If it's not, it will say just waiting for review, or it will say not passed. If it says not passed, I will give you 3 attempts. So 2 attempts after you finish the first one to finish it. So you have to finish it the coming week right away, and so you could get your grade up. So it always has to say pass, pass. If it's not, then we have to talk and see how we can remedy and make that situation better. But otherwise, it will just say waiting for review, and that would mean the assignment is not done yet. Attendance. So here's where you can track your attendance. So if you missed anything, this is where you will see it will say absent. But you will also receive a text message automatically, and also we could like comment or do something here in the comment. So I will give you some comment. If let's say you gave us excuse, you will see here excused instead of absent. Feedback, this is general feedback. So in case you go above and beyond, or you help a student, or you do something, you see feedback here, and it's either me or one of the future instructors or future assistant people will give you feedback on the good things you did, the things you could do better, all that stuff. So you will see feedbacks here all the time. So this is your profile. And then on the left side, you'll see all the sections. So this school is divided into 4 sections. 4 sections means each section is a month. But for the part time, it's 5 months. So we kind of like stretch things out a little bit. But it's designed for 4 months. And each month is 5 weeks. I mean 4 weeks. So the first week, so this is the first week, HTML, CSS. HTML, CSS is 5 days. These 5 days are the assignments are right here. So the first one we'll do is this one we're doing right now, the Gabi School introduction, and we'll do intro to HTML today. So this is today's assignment of day one, week one, section one. So the sections are divided into that way. At the end of the week, the part time we kind of like count as like 2 weeks. So every 2 weeks for the part time means 1 week. So it's because you're doing 4 hours a day instead of 8 hours. So that's how it's divided. So when you finish all these, at the end of the week, you will do your sprint project, which is a assessment. It's a project that you build. So whatever you learned here, you build a application here or a website, or you work on something. And this one is by yourself only. So you'll work on yourself. You'll have about 4 hours to finish it for one day, and then you would just sit down and do it, and it's timed. So those 4 hours, you just have to finish in those 4 hours, and then when you're done, I'll sit down with you the next day, and we'll go over what you did and kind of like understand that you fully understand the whole that whole week. So we don't want to move on. Uh, we don't want to move on, and you didn't understand the whole week, or you didn't understand part of it. So I'll make sure you understand the main concepts. If you didn't understand, or if you didn't do like a small part of it, that I consider maybe you will catch up later. There are parts like if you go to the JavaScript, there are things like, for example, like closures and things like that. Students don't get it right away. So, and that's what I've seen before. Many students, they don't get it right away. It takes a little more time. It takes maybe a month or 2 months for you to understand it and to catch up. But you just, it's a monkey see monkey do sometimes. So you see the thing and then you just type it and you do it, but you fully might not understand it. So that's fine too. So I understand when the student is struggling and they don't understand a small part of it, but if they understand, let's say 80% of the material, then that's fine. So that's how we do it every week. We go over the assignments and then we do the sprint project. We go over assignment, we do the sprint project. So we use something called agile methodology. So that means we every so every day we do the lecture, and then the next day we do the meeting. So we do stand up because it's a part time. So we divided a one day into 2 days. So today is the lecture, tomorrow is assignment, but it was supposed to be like one day, the whole thing. So tomorrow, after you finish your assignment, we will do stand up. That means we will meet about like 30 minutes, and then I will ask you how was your assignment, how you doing, how's it going. People who worked in the professional settings will understand, and companies who use agile methodology. Every day you just have a quick meeting, understand what everybody's doing, how's everything going, and then you move on. And then at the end of the week you bring together everything that you were working on, and then you do a bigger project or a bigger assignment. So that's what we use in that methodology. So 4 sections, 4 months, and then we have something called build week. Build week means you take all this you learned last 3 weeks, and then you accumulate that into a project that you will build a whole week. So you'll have like a one or two students that you'll work with. I will assign a project, let's say a website. You build a marketing website for, let's say, a nonprofit. So you have to do all the design, the style, and the CSS. You have to do all this good stuff. But you will work with person, and you have the whole week. So you will start from like Monday through a Friday. I mean, we are part time, so it's a little bit different, but assume it's like a whole week. So that's a build week. So the last week of every section is build week. So this is build week 1, build week 2, build week 3. But then when we go to section 4, things change. Uh, Section 4 is basically the last month, the last time you will be in the school. So we want to make sure that you fully understand what you learned the last 3 months. So that means we will do something called lab project, which means a much bigger project. It's going to take 3 weeks to finish. You will work with the team. You will do the front end and the back end. You will do the database. You will do the APIs. You will do everything from scratch. So you build something from scratch and build on for 3 weeks. So the first week will be preparation. The middle week or the second week would be a building the front end, and the last week would be building the back end and kind of like completing the project. And then you will do presentation with the part time and the full time in Zoom. So you will choose someone from your team, and then you build that all that. So you will get all the information when we get there, but it's much bigger. We'll also make it public. So inshallah, we'll go to like Somali groups like Snappy and other groups, and we will actually present we'll present it live probably. We haven't decided yet, but we want to just put the stake a little bit higher because this is a much bigger project, and we want you to be professional and be prepared and show off and show what you learned and be proud of what you have learned for the last 3 months. So that's kind of like how big it is. So, and then the last week we'll end with Python. So Python is not afterthought, but by this time you're sharp developer. By this time you reach this and you did all this stuff, you're really good developer. Python would be like drinking water. Basically, it's just going to be really easy, and you're just going to go through it in a week and finish it, and you build a project with it, you do your assignment, all that stuff, and you'll be done with the school. So that's kind of like the journey you will go through. It seems daunting right now, but inshallah soon you'll see you're really, you're really into the thick of it. All right. So forms are important for this school because it's going to be we don't have a lot of employees, so we want to make sure everything's streamlined and every student does their work. So you will have a daily reflection. The daily reflection is every day or every other day for the part time. When you finish your assignment, you click this form, you go here, you fill out. So you choose your name here from the list. You choose the assignment. You put the link of the project you're working on. So it's either CodeBen or GitHub or things like that. You will choose your cohort, which is the part time, and then you will grade yourself. We'll talk about the grading, but we have a three scale grading where you can choose between 1 to 3. So 1 means you did not meet the expectation. That means you didn't do the work. You barely started. 2 means you met the expectation, means you did the MVP. You basically did what you supposed to do. And 3 means you excelled. You did extra, much more than what you were expected to do. So that's kind of like the scale we use to grade the students. We don't have any like A or percentage or anything like that because we know that this is we want to make sure that students are evaluated for their work, not for just finishing something. In college, you just finish something, you get A, you get B. Oh, I'm done with it. That's not how we grade. So we want to make sure that you basically you did what you're supposed to do and you learned the material. And then you just write a little bit. You write basically what you feel. You write if you did something, if there was something that you couldn't do, if there was any obstacle, you can write it here. If you have any problems, I can contact you. You could write here something like, I didn't understand this part, or I didn't understand this concept, or I didn't understand this. Then I'll contact you and we can explain it to you, or we can go over it in the stand up. Or you could just talk about something that you figured out. You could say, I learned something new today, and you didn't talk about it in the lecture, and this is what I did. So this is just optional, and you could write it. So that's your daily form. You just finish that every day, every other day for the part time, and you'll be good. And there's a sprint reflection. This is every week. So when you finish your sprint project for every week, you fill out this form. is very similar to the one I just talked about. You grade yourself for things like that. And this one is the build week. So this one is when we reach in 4 weeks. The build week is when you work with people, like you work with a couple of people, and you do the assignment, you fill out this form, you do the project. The last one is a general. This one is important because we want to improve the school. This is the first year of starting Gabi school, and we want to make it better. So this is anonymous feedback. So your name is not tied to it and nothing, and there's no consequences. You could leave a negative, positive feedback, and it has to be professional. But we will take any feedback, and we will try to make the school better, inshallah. So that's the forms. The last part of the training material is these links, important links. They are important. The student guide is one of the important documents for the school. This is, if you have any question about the school, this is where your answers are located. The student guide is located in Notion. Notion is a document creation application that we use. It's like Google Docs, but it's much better. It's easier to use. So everything you need to know about the school, everything you need to know about the policies that we have, the code of conduct, academic policies, student journey, all this stuff, the curriculum, everything you need to know. We have the build week, so everything you need to know about the build week. So when we reach that, this is where you're gonna see this document in the Slack. We also have a courier here. We're still working on the courier, so this will be at the end of your journey, where we will give you all the information you need to get started to look for a job, and also more help. So, and the more hub is where you find resources, things like that. We also have health and wellness support. We're working with a therapy and mental organizations that help students, help people. If you're struggling with something or anything like that, we're working with a organization called Sakun Mental Health. So if you're struggling with something, they can help you, and we can talk to them. So that's also an option. So we try to help students as much as we can, from learning the material to a mental health. So that's the student guide. Also the schedule. So the part-time schedule right now is locked because we're still refining the last parts of it. So I'll release it tonight. But the main thing you need to know is everything starts from 6, ends at 10, the weekdays. And on the weekends, we will choose. I'll send out a poll that you could choose between Saturday and Sunday, which one you choose. But that's going to be full day. So start from 9 to 7 p.m. But every other day is 6 to 10. Whatever is happening, either assignments or project or anything, it's going to be 6 to 10. That's the time you'll go. So I'll share the calendar when it's finished, but let me show you the full time schedule or calendar, how it looks like. So this is how the full time looks like. So they just finished today. As you can see, it's divided and it's already organized. And tomorrow they will start just like this. The part time will have similar, but it will start somewhere here, and it will have, like, let's say I'm like live lecture today, and tomorrow it's gonna have project time. So that's kind of like every other day. That's how it's gonna go on. So inshallah, I'll share when I finish up the that calendar. So that's in general, that's the system. That is the training material. You know. So let me finish this slide, and then we will talk. I'll take your questions, and we'll take a little break, and then we'll get back to the second part of the lecture. So let's get back to it. So filling out the forms, we just talked about how to fill out the forms and all that. You use the Airtable link, and the Airtable is the system we use to fill out the forms and things like that. Asking for help, the program can be really intense. This program, especially in the middle of it and at the end of it. So you always keep asking for help. Don't be shy to ask for help. send me private message. I will try to help you as much as I can. Also, you could publish your question in the group. There's going to be there's going to be groups or channels where you could share your question, and students will help you. Also use the 20-minute rule. We'll have something called 20-minute rule. That means if you're stuck in a problem for 20 minutes, go ahead and ask for help. Even if it's, let's say, a assignment that you have to work on by yourself. If you're stuck 20 minutes, it's not going to help if you keep, if you keep looking for answers and you're stuck for an hour, 2 hours, it's never going to help you. So make sure every time you're stuck in 20 minutes, just step out from the problem, maybe go get a glass of water and come back and send me a message, send a message to the help channels, and just be, be open about it. And that's how you learn. That's the best way to learn, is asking for help, and making sure you try the problem first and then just ask a specific question. We also use the IWI method, which is I do, we do, you do. Uh, I do means you guys go to the training material every day when we do in lecture. So when there's a lecture, you go to the training material, you go to that day's assignment or project for that day. You read all this. So you just read this. You watch the videos. So we have some of the assignments have videos. You watch the videos, you go over everything, you just finish this whole thing, you understand you try your best to understand it for 30 minutes. That's why we give from 6 to 6:30. The 30 minutes is for you to read this, to understand this, so when you come to the lecture, you have full understanding of what the subject is about, at least. So that's I do part. We do part is this right now we do in the lecture. So I'll go over the HTML and the assignment for today. So that's what we do together. The you do part is tomorrow when you do your assignment. So, and you could start it today too. We will have another like hour and a half left after the lecture. So the assignment or the project you will do, you will do it yourself, and you could ask for help, no problem. So that's IWI method that we use. So the grading system, I touched a little bit about the grading, which is we have 1 to 3 scale. The one means you did not meet the expectation. This means you have to redo the assignment. So we'll give you 3 attempts, and mostly that's for the weekly sprint project. If you don't do 3 times and you don't meet the expectation for 3 times, then that would mean we have to sit down and talk and understand where the problem is coming from, because it might not be the material, it might not be you doing the assignment, it could be other things. So we have to sit down, and if there's no other solution, it might come down to you going back, waiting for the next cohort, and just falling back. So make sure you always try to do at least you get 2 means you meet the expectation. That means you did the MVP, you did the minimum viable product, and you finished and you're good to go, and there's no problem with that. And 3 means you exceeded and you did much better than expected. We'll have extra assignment every day. So there will be MVP that you'll do that, and then we'll have another assignment that's a little more complex, a little more harder than the normal one. So that one is the exceeded expectation one. We'll have the weekly assessment I talked about, the sprint project. This will happen every week for the full time, every Friday. The part time, that's what we're working on right now for the schedule, but it will happen every other week. It's 4 hour long, and it's not grouped, so you will not be working with a group. It will be just by yourself, and make sure you get at least 2, because that's you will not move on unless you get 2 on that the for the sprint project, and falling behind will make you really it will make really hard for you to move on. The schedule we talked about a little bit. For the part time, it's 4 hours a day, and one day of the weekend is full day from 9 to 7. So we'll choose that together. The tuition. So the tuition, if you paid in full, you will have option to get a refund in case you want to leave the school or something happens and you don't want to continue. You could get a refund, but if you paying month by month, then there's no refund, because when you pay this month, then then that means you could just not pay the next month and move on. So we try to work with the student. Let's say if you pay the first of the month and you just want to leave, then yeah, we could do refund, but that's case to case. So you have to talk to us about that one. But if you're in the middle of the month, then you just move on and not pay the next month. That's kind of like how the tuition works for the part time, not the part time, for the students paying month to month. All right. So that is the assignment and all that stuff. Now let's just talk about quickly the tools. We will use Slack, Zoom, Airtable, which you will fill forms, the training material, which we just went over, and GitHub, which we will learn. Then we will learn another day. So GitHub is really important. That's the place you will use to push your code or to put your code in there, and that will be your main place. And make sure to create an account ahead of time if you want, but you don't have to. The next lesson, not tomorrow, but the day after, it will be about GitHub and how to set up and all that stuff. So you'll be good to go. And this is just a description of what the Slack is and how to use it and things like that. The Zoom, we're using it right now. It's the platform to show students the lecture and everything. So it's really important to have Zoom in your computer and be ready. Airtable is the forms. We talked about it. The training material is the system we're using to have the curriculum and everything. So and it's important to log in every day. So we are tracking the students when they log in. So make sure you log in every day. Make sure you look at the assignment at least every other day for the part-time students, and make sure that you read the assignment and you understand what's in there. So that's kind of that's it for the slides and the general, sorry, my webcam. That's the general understanding of what the school is about, what we will the parts of it, and how to go through it and what to do every day, things like that. uh so inshallah, I'll take questions now for that part of it. If you have any questions, put it on the Slack. You could also talk and take the mic if you have any questions about it. And we will take a break, inshallah, quick break, and come back. Um, So someone asked me, "Are you gonna share the PDF lectures ahead of time?" So the lectures are already in the system. So let me just show you the training material. So the lectures, there's two parts to the lectures. So lecture, if you're talking about the lecture I'm doing right now, I'll record it. It's recording now, and then I'll publish it right after. So when we finish this, I'll just put it on YouTube. I'll put it in private, and then I'll share it in the group. So you'll have that, and also we'll post it eventually here in the system. So you'll have it forever, and you'll have access here to this system forever, even when you finish the school. So everything is recorded, everything is shared, so you'll be fine. Any other questions you guys have before we go to break? Okay. That means you guys understand what I talked about. So many stuff. All right. So let's go to a break for 10 minutes. Go get your shah. 10 minutes. Get shah, get water, something, and we'll get back inshallah, and we'll get started with HTML today. See you guys soon. Okay, okay. Let's get back to it, inshallah. Welcome back. Inshallah. Welcome back. Welcome back. Okay, so inshallah, we'll get started with today's assignment or today's lesson. Uh, everything we talked about is just a introduction because it's the first day. But usually we'll just get right into the lesson. So today's lesson, let me just let me go to my let me close this. So today's lesson we're talking about HTML. So what is HTML? I actually have a slide here that I can talk about quickly what HTML is. So if you have never touched the HTML, if you don't know what it is, that's fine. We'll go over it. So HTML stands for Hypertext Markup Language. So it's not a programming language. It is a text language. It was created by this guy called Tim Berners-Lee in 1993. He kind of initiated it before that, but he standardized it in 1993. It's the building blocks of all the websites you've seen. So if you've seen Facebook, any website you've seen has HTML in it. So all the websites have HTML. So the HTML file ends with .html, and HTML went through several versions. The latest one, and the one we have right now, is called HTML5. So let me talk about a little bit about this guy, Tim Berners-Lee. He's still alive. I think he teaches Massachusetts, one of the schools, big schools. But he's when he started, he was young when he started. He was working at CERN. It's always good to understand the background of where something came from. He was working at CERN, which is a physics laboratory. They do a lot of physicists work there. They basically it's located in France. It's a laboratory that is a underground, and it's a tube. It's a long tube around a city, a whole city. Basically, what they do is they kind of like accelerate particles, and the particles smash together, and then they kind of like examine that. They're trying to find more stuff. So that's where he used to work in 1985. Um, and one day he realized that a lot of scientists that were coming all over the world, they were coming from US, Europe, all over the place. They were bringing their documents, and their documents were in different files. So some of them were in like PDF, let's say. Some of them were in like different type of text. And if you want to like open it, you have to have a certain type of device. You have to have a certain type of machine or something like that. Some of them even used to bring the actual machine itself so that they can open it. They used to send it the machine. So it was a headache. So all these scientists bring in all these documents and letters, and there's no standard way to open it. So he created a something called HTML. He didn't call it HTML at that time. He created the markups and how it looks like, all of that stuff, and he brought it to his supervisor. And the supervisor, there's a paper. There's actually a image of it in the internet. The paper that he proposed. At the top of the paper, his supervisor, he wrote vague but interesting when he proposed HTML. So that's the beginning. That's where HTML came from in 1980. That was in 1989, and then in 1993 he standardized it, and there was a new browsers coming to the market. There was a browser called Vala before the browsers that we know today, and he kind of like partnered with them. So HTML usually works with the browser, so it's kind of like it's let's say its roots, it's in the in the browser, so it has to have a browser to work. That's how it kind of like, that's how you open it. So he worked with a couple of browsers, and then eventually all the browsers kind of adopted, and that's when we in 1995, that's when it became a standard. And then from there, that was the first version. He went on and kind of like it became everybody started using it. So in 2000, that's when it became fully standard, and there was no other way to open documents in the internet, and if HTML was the only one. So HTML, how does it look like? So this is kind of like the structure of HTML. So when you write in HTML, you will always know by the tags. So these angle brackets, that's how you know. And HTML documents start with HTML. So these two brackets, they start with that. And then at the end of the document, it has that. Let me just let this fade out. It has that closing tag HTML. So it's angle bracket slash HTML, and that's the close. So everything in between that is HTML, and then you have a header and you have a body. Think of HTML document as like a person. So the person has a head and a body. The body, all this white part you see, that's where what the browser sees. That's what people see in the website. The header part is where you define what the website is about. So you will have a title. So this website is about this. Let's say it's about news or something. You put the title. So the title tag, the opening tag of the title, and the closing tag, and you put the title. And there is a lot of things you could put in the header, and we'll explain that in other lessons. But in general, the this is how the document looks like. And this is the the anatomy of HTML tag, opening tag, closing tag. There's a few places where you will not have a closing tag, but most of it, 90% of it, you will have an opening tag, you will close tag. This one is a P, that means it's a paragraph. So there's a lot of abbreviations, so keep that in mind. But there are times where you will see something like header, you will see something like nav, so things you will understand, and we'll talk about that too. And also these are the most used tags. The first one is H1. This is a header one. It stands for header one. Header one means, let's say if you go to like CNN or something like that, or Al Jazeera, the top title that is the biggest one is H1. It's the biggest one, and there's no other H1s. So you should have only one H1 in per page. So H1 means it's the biggest title, and then you will have H2, H3, H5, H6. H6 is the smallest. Usually you don't use H6, is the smallest one, so you could use other things. But H1, H2, and H3 are usually used. Paragraph, P stands for paragraph. Usually it's just a body of text that you want to describe. A stands for anchor. This is, you use this when you're creating a link, and we will see that. Div stands for a division. It's basically a generic container. So it doesn't mean anything. It's just a generic section of the website. IMG stands for image. So this is when you want to define an image and you want to show image to the people. So you will define it as IMG, and we'll see the syntax of how that is defined. This is not how it's defined. We'll see how it's defined. This is just showing you the tags. You also have UL and OL. You use this when you're trying to create a list. So UL stands for unordered list. That means a list that does not have a number. OL means ordered list, a list that have a number. So if you want to number something and you want to say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in a list, then you use OL, and I will show you how to use that in a little bit. And UL you use if you don't want to define it, the numbers. And also there is a span. Span is a generic inline container. That means it's just like paragraph or div, but it has a different property which is called inline. And inline, we'll see an example of it. It is important. So all these elements, especially H1, paragraph, div, they're not inline. That means every text you put within these, they will take the whole page. They're not gonna break the page. They will take the whole page, and I'll show you that. It might not make sense right now, but I'll show you. We'll also learn something called semantic HTML. This is really important. So today's lesson, most of you have seen what HTML is, what it's about, all that stuff. But today's lesson, mainly what you will learn is a semantic HTML. Semantic HTML is used for devices, screen readers. So let's say someone is using a device and they're blind. When they come to your website, they want to know where they are. So if they tab a section, it should say something like header. It should say something like nav. So these tags are actually, they exist. So these are actual tags that exist, and you define your website like this, and then you put something in between the header, so let's say the logo and things like that. The nav is the navigation, home, things like that, about us, you put there. A section is, let's say, is a text of a section of text or something like that, and images, all that stuff. An article is, if you want to just define an article, you just use the article. If you have a sidebar on your website, you will use a side element, and then the footer is the last part of the website. So this helps several things. It helps the search engine. Let's say if Google comes to your website, Google has a something called crawlers. These crawlers are bots that come to your website, and they just kind of like check your website. And if you already have semantic HTML, they will understand this is the header. Okay, I'll just look for anything that's related to header. This is a nav, so now I know how to like create a sitemap for the website, so I know what the navigations are about. So it makes it much easier for Google to like quickly look at the website and kind of categorize it easily. And there's other benefits, and we'll get to that. So now let's get to the actual coding part. So we're done with the slide. So that was enough slide. I don't like slides myself, so sorry about that. But it is important to understand concepts and kind of like get to it. So we'll get to the actual coding. We will use something called Code Ben, and I will share this link so you can basically uh, you could just use that and later on and use it as a reference. So I shared in Slack. So CodeBen is a website. It's called codeben.io. It's a website where you can write code, mostly HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. So it is easy way for us to write code without setting up in the computer. So most of you know that if you want to write a code, most of the time you have to download something like editor in your computer. You have to do the setup and all that stuff. We will do that later. So for now, most of the people are beginner, so we'll use CodePen, and it makes it easy for us to just open it and just code without thinking about the setup and all that stuff. We will also use another website for like when we reach something like React or something like that, another website. But when we get to the back end, we cannot use a website, so that's when we will use the editor. So it's a stages that we'll go over, but the main thing today, the focus is understanding HTML. So let me know if you guys have any question of what we just talked about. Um, Either share, put it in Slack, or you could put it in the Zoom chat if you want. I prefer if you put it in Slack, but you can also put it in Zoom chat, or you could just talk and open your mic. Any which way is better. It's fine. Okay, I'll give it a second. Yes, via email. So right now we're not using the email, so I can share the link in here in Zoom. So most of the time when we're doing the lecture, I'll use either Slack or the Zoom chat. It would be difficult for me to open an email right now and kind of open it and put your email and things like that. It kind of distracts the flow. So everything I'm sharing, I'll share in Slack or in the chat of Zoom. So make sure you have access to Slack, and it will be easier for you to go from there. So that's why we're keeping everything in one system so that we don't jump around to different places. Let me know if you have any other question. So let's get started. So we'll start with semantic markup, something we call semantic markup. Another thing, actually, before I get into this, is that this morning, the other group, I asked them if they wanted me to speak in Somali or English. I took a poll in Slack. So if you guys want to do that too, that's fine with me. I can speak either one of them. Most of you are in the US. So in the morning, we had students from Somalia, like about 2 students from Somalia. So let me just post something here. So I'll say for Somali, use, I'll say use, so you just use emoji. That's how we vote in here, if you can. Use that, and for English, use this. So just for what I post right now, you could just react to it. So you could make a reaction to that. So we can see here where you guys at. Um, I can do either. Would be fine with me. So in the Slack, you could vote there. No problem with that. If you don't have access to Slack, you could just message me in Zoom. So someone, Zakaria asked me for daily assignments, should we use CodePen? So for the HTML, just for today and maybe for tomorrow, actually just for today and tomorrow's assignment, you will use CodePen. And from there on, we will just move on from CodePen. So it's just for the first day. So I would say just CodePen is only at the beginning. So just the first assignment is CodePen. From there on, we will move on to another platform, GitHub, and I'll teach you that in the next lecture. Are we gonna use to do assignment for the lecture? So are we gonna use do the lecture before the assignment before the lecture? So assignments are done the next day. So today is a lecture day. So when we finish, we will have about an hour and a half left. You have an option to get started and finish assignment today, or get started tomorrow 6 p.m. and finish it an hour before tomorrow the day ends, before the 4 hours ends. So you have the option to do that. So that would be the kind of like the usual flow. All right, let's see how the votes look like. It looks like let me see. It looks like there is 2 for English. There's 3. Okay, 3 for English. Actually 4 for English. Mohammed said love. And then there's 1 for Somali. Okay, no problem, inshallah. I'll do it in English. Since most people voted for that, so no problem, inshallah. And whenever you wanted me to explain something in Somali, let me know in the future. If something doesn't make sense to you in English, then inshallah I can translate it. All right, so let's get to it. Let's get to the assignment today. So today we're doing semantic markup. Semantic markup means meaningful code, a code that makes sense. So these are some of the semantics that we can use. So some of them are not even semantic, like the P and H1. They kind of look like a semantic, but some people might not understand. So nav, and then there's section, there's main, there is header. So we could use all of them, and we'll use some of them. So we'll see. So some of the things that I did talk about is that semantic HTML helps with accessibility for screen readers. It helps the next developer. So if you're taking this website and you're giving it to another developer, it helps them understand like, oh, this is a header section, this is a navigation section. So it makes it easy for them to understand. And also SEO, which means search engine optimization. That's usually Google. So yeah, it is important to use semantic HTML. So let's get started. Let's see. Let's get started. We'll start with the first one. So the first part is we will wrap up this whole section. In here, actually, in CodePen, we don't have the HTML tags. So usually when you're trying to do a HTML, you should have the HTML tags right here, like that. HTML, and at the end you should have HTML tag, closing tag, and then right here, right after the HTML tag, you'll have head. You'll have head tag, and closing head tag. So every time you have to close within the head, you will have a title and other things too, but you'll start with title, and you'll say something like international airport. So the title is basically shows right here at the top. So where it says HTML1 lecture, that's what it's supposed to show. Right now we're in CodeBen, and CodeBen is sandboxed. So that means we cannot go above the system. But usually when you're creating HTML file, this title should show right there at the top. So that's the job. And now we'll have a baddie. So the next thing we'll have is baddie. And you will close the body here. So that's how HTML, what do you call it? HTML document should look like. But right now we're not using any HTML. We're not in HTML document. We're in CodePen, so we will not use that. It's already defined for us. CodePen already designed that way, so we will not use this. We'll just get right into building the website. So let's get started. I like wrapping everything in one div. So we did talk about what div are. And let me know if my voice and everything is good in case I cut out or something like that. Um, so um, so I like wrapping everything in one div. So we'll just say div, and then we'll just put another div at the bottom. Okay, so that's another div. So right here we have a section where there is a logo or a title of the website and navigation. So that means this is a header section. So we could put all this in the header. Sometimes you could break it and put the logo in just the header and put the nav in the menus in just the navigation. But I like, and this is all like opinion. So some people will tell you put the menus and the menus navigation and the logo, all that in header. Some people will tell you break it apart, but it's just opinion. So header, we'll say header. I'll put here header. Header. Okay. And this is a closing header. So now this is in header. We'll give this H1. So this means this is the biggest text in the biggest title in the website. So H1 right here, that's how big it is. And we'll put here navigation. So we'll say nav, close in, and another nav, closing nav. That was opening nav, closing nav. So now nothing happens because we didn't define what these menus are. So the menu or the navigation is usually a link. So we'll put a link here. So a link, this is how you put a link in HTML. So you say A, and you say href, and you will give that. So href is an attribute. It's called an attribute. Let me just close it before. Let me close it first before I explain it. An href is an attribute for the link. So the anchor for the A, it has an attribute. It has something that defines it. So if you just put A, it will say, okay, this is a link, but I don't know what to do with it. I don't know where to send it. So now you just define it. You say, okay, I give you this attribute, and this attribute was given by. Let me just zoom in for a second. This attribute was given by the HTML people that already defined everything. So they said that if you define A, the attribute or what it does is href. So href is kind of like the link. So the URL or the link. And you can put here something like www.google.com or whatever. So that's where that's the link. So if you click home now, it will take you to Google basically. But now we don't have any link, so we just say hash. If you put the hash pound or that pound sign, that means it is an empty link. So if you click it, nothing happens. So that's how you put something empty. I see someone is asking a question. Are we allowed to use the CodeBen shortcuts like the exclamation mark, plus, tab to create HTML? Yeah, you're allowed to do that, but we're learning, so it's important to like write everything down. So that is when you learned when you finish everything, when you finish HTML and you're done with it and you're doing other things, it's fine to have shortcuts. I have shortcuts. I never for now, when I was learning, I write down all HTML. But when you're practicing, basically you don't. When you're learning, you write everything down, and when you are done, you just basically have shortcuts. It's just like when you're learning how to drive a car. So usually when you learn how to drive a car, you have to learn all the rules. You have to do the rules correctly. You have to do everything correctly. But when you've been driving for like over 10 years, you don't think about it. You just do it automatically and you don't think about the rules or anything. So just like that, right now we're thinking about the rules. This is the learning part. So make sure you understand every part of it. What is the href is about? Why does it do that? All that stuff. So you'll have shortcuts later on if you want, but right now it's just the understanding part. All right. I hope that answers your question. Um, and also, if you have questions, you could also wait, and I'll give you guys a time to ask all the questions. But you could also send me. I'll prefer you to send it to Slack, and then I will answer it when we finish the first section. So let's just create the other tags, the other links. Second link, and I can just copy and paste for now. Let's copy and paste for now, and let's copy and paste this one because they're exactly the same, and we don't want to waste a lot of time. So as you can see here, the home, about, flight, contact, they all have a link. So if you click it, it will not take you anywhere, but it has a link. All right. So that's the navigation right here, the nav, and this is the whole header, and that is the title, the top title. Okay, so let's go to the other sections. We'll come back for the image for a minute, but let's go to the other parts, the sections. So the sections will start with the first one. So as you can see here, the content is divided by the title. So this is a title. This is a button. So this is call to action. This is another title for this section. And that's it. So this section has 2 paragraphs. This section has 1 paragraph. You should have 2 paragraphs. I made it 1 paragraph. So let's just actually make it 2. So that is, so let's create our sections. So we just using semantic HTML, we just create section. And this is whole section right here. Let's close this section. This is a title. So we will use H2. That means we already use H1, so we cannot use it again. H2. So this is the second biggest text in the website. Oh, sorry, we have to close it. So as you can see here, it's a little bit bigger than the others. And then also this is a paragraph. So we just put the P, closing P. This is also a opening P and closing P. Usually when you use an editor, it does the closing tag for you. So when you do the opening tag, it just does automatically the closing tag. So that's when you use an editor. And also you could do this on CodePen, but I haven't set it up for that. As you can see now, everything is divided. So that's good. Let's create another section here. And let's create, and usually when you when you have a section, it's good to indent things. So as you can see here, now we have a section here and the section ends here. There's a lot of content in here. So let's actually zoom out for a second. So it's good to indent. That means it's good to like push it inward. So let's push it inward. What's wrong with my okay, let's push it inward that way. So let's see. So CodeBin is kind of weird, but it is, as you can see here, the H1 is indented. It's a little bit inside the section. That means it's part of the section. So just like that, let's make this one the top one, and let's close it here. Okay, section. I hope you guys following me. Let me know if my voice or anything cuts. Okay, and then this, let's give it this an H2. All right. And this is a paragraph as usual. P. I just copy it so that we save time. We already went through the other one. And let's write another P here. Closing P. Closing V. Keyboard is not working for me. All right. So now we set up everything. The only part that's left is the footer. So this menu goes to the footer. So just add footer here. And the footer is semantic, so that's good. Close in footer. So a lot of times you'll have issue with that. So you see your code not working, but you forget this closing tag. So keep that in mind. If you have issue, make sure you always have the closing tag. Everything looks good. So we have the bottom, and let's make this one exact the same as the top one where we have links. So we just copy. Actually, let's copy the nav section, or we just copy the links instead of the nav. And let's just replace these. Okay, so they're all linked. All right, so everything looks good so far. Everything looks simple. We'll add a little bit of CSS so it looks nicer, but that's the main tags that you need to put in. You could add a little more tags. We could use the main one right here, main tag. But also we could use a side. We could put a sidebar, but I want to keep it simple. So that's and also let's put the button here. So the button tag and the closing button tag. So as you can see here, this became a button. Give it a second until it refreshes. Right here, book a flight. You could click it, nothing happens, and we will learn how to make the button work in other lessons when we reach JavaScript. All right, so that is the main thing. So now we'll get to CSS. Let me know if you guys have any question on how to do that semantic part of just putting the tags in. We will not do a lot of CSS, so don't worry. We'll do very basic, few lines of CSS. We'll cover CSS in the next lesson, and that will be the focus of our lecture in the next lecture. So, yeah. How do I indent it, by tab or space? You could do either. If I did a tab right now, so if I do this, and I did tab, so that's one way to do it. You could also do space, but a space you have to do one at a time. So you have to do that. You have to do that. So, but you could just highlight all of them, especially if it's just the tags. If it's a text like this, as you can see, it doesn't allow me to indent this text because it is, I don't know, it's a code bin thing. So, but tags allow you to like highlight and indent them. So I just use tab. Okay, that's a good question. Let's see how many people we have in here. Mashallah. I see 2 iPhones. Is that 2 people or 1 person? Okay. And I see G Dog. Is that Gadid? How Gadid? I think it's Gadid. All right. Welcome, guys. If you didn't come at the beginning. All right. Let's get to the CSS part. Just put down the CSS. We have about 30 minutes. We could take another break, but I think we could push it and finish it. Zakaria, okay. I'm using iPhone for technical issues. Okay. Yeah, that's fine. You could use the iPhone or anything, inshallah. As long as you're just watching the lecture and you understand what I'm talking about, that's the most important part. Yeah. So, okay. So we'll finish the CSS and then I will talk about how you can submit your assignment every day, every other day. So how to submit the assignment, all that stuff, and what assignment to do and things like that. We'll talk about that in a minute. So let's just finish up the CSS. So the CSS part, we will do a few things. We will first, as you can see here, when we zoom out, everything is spread out. So, and also it's indented, or everything goes to the left side. So everything goes from the left to the right. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look a good website. Let's put it that way. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to the div file, the div I created right here, and I'm gonna put class. So class is a way to define the CSS. So there's two ways to define your custom CSS. You could do two things in CSS, and we will learn more CSS in next lecture. You could do two things. You could define CSS by already existing tags like div, header. So if we want to like define this div, we just go to the CSS, and in CodeBin, you could define your CSS in this file, in this section, CSS. So div, and then you could just say whatever. So let's say something like color red or something like that, and that will mean everything under the div that is a text, make it red. Or you could just define the background or whatever you want. So I didn't put any special things. I just said any div. So there might be other divs. If there's other divs in the website, it will just affect that. You could also do something like header here, and just say header, and anything in the header will be affected right here. You can see the header is red. So you could do that. That's one way. You could just use already existing tags to define in CSS. But you could also create your own custom ones. So to create a custom one, you could use two things. You could use class, as we just learned. Class. The good thing about class is, let's say you want to define multiple things, you could do it. So let's say you want to say container. I want to also define an image here, and also I want to define other things here, text. So these are different classes. You have three classes now. And to define a class in CSS, you go to CSS section, you say dot, you start with dot, and then you say container, and then you define it whatever. You say color red. So that means this container is one CSS, one class. This image is one class. This text is another class. So that's what's good about the class. There's also another way to define it, which is ID. So in ID, the only restriction about ID is that you can't define multiple things here. You can't say container text. You can't say that. It's not allowed. So you have to choose one thing. So we don't usually use ID. It's best to use class. It's much more flexible. So we use class, and we put container here. Now, so let's make everything centered. So let's just actually not make everything red. Let's make everything centered so it looks nicer. So to center everything, we'll say we'll define the width, and we'll define the margin. So we'll say width 500 pixels. You will learn what these pixels are about and what they do. 500 pixels, and also we'll define the margin. Margin is the outside part of the document. So the content, and then there is a border around the content. So now there is an invisible border, but there's border around the content, and you will learn this in CSS. And then there is a margin outside. So margin will say make it 0 and auto. So that means make it so that the top part has no margin, has no space, and the bottom part has no space, but the sides have space, and make it automatic. So auto usually just automatically centers things. So choose the center of the left and the center of the right, and then it puts everything in the center. So now it doesn't matter how big we make it, it goes in the center. So I see a few texts. So you said, why does the link look different? So why does the link look different? So when we said let's see, when we say color red, the reason why the link looks different is because the link is not a text, and this one by default it goes to text. So it by default it looks for a text, and the link is not a text. Is a tag. I mean, it is a text, but it is under the link, and the link itself has a property that is a red, not red. The property that's blue. So the link has a default property within HTML that gives it blue and also underline. That is default in HTML. So to change that, you have to target the link by itself. So that's why it's different. Okay. Um, let's see. The first list item seems that they have set to display inline as a row. No, mean the display set as an inline. So usually most properties in HTML are block. They're not inline. So this is a little bit out of the scope of today's lecture, but I will touch it in a little bit. What is scope? What is a block and inline means? So a block is, let's say this paragraph right here. This paragraph takes the whole space. So even if you make it like one line, if you make it like one line, it will take the whole space. So let's make it like half a line. And right here, it will take the whole line. It will take the whole page, the whole width. And if you put something next to it, like if you put text here, it will just move it to the next line automatically. So that's called block. That means it fills out this whole space and it doesn't allow something else to come in there. So let's say we change the paragraph, the P to span. Now, span is an inline property. Span allows you to take as much as you need space and then just give the rest to the next line. So that's the difference between block and inline, and we'll learn that in the future. So that is that's the explanation of the person who asked me that question. So most of the properties are inline already. I mean, are block. So paragraphs are block, H1s are block, all these header section, all of them are blocks. So let's finish up the CSS. So now we have everything in line, lined up. Let's add a little bit of touch here. Let's make sure the header text is not that big. So we say header, and then we say H1. That means this is CSS way of nesting things. Basically, it is asking, okay, go to the header tag and then find the children element of H1. So H1 is the children of header, and header is a parent of H1. So now we just say font size. Let's say something like 20 pixels. So it looks nicer. It's not way too big. Let's also define a few other things, the navigation. So we want to define the navigation so that they're not all together. They're not all put together. So to define the navigation, we also target it. We'll also target the a tag right here. So we'll say header, nav, and then a. So now we can define it and say something like margin left. Let's say something like 20 or 30, something like that. So that means they're not together. They're not like all put together. But the problem we have right now is that the home is not it's not aligned to the left. We can change that easily by targeting the first one. So we say header nav a, and then we'll say something like first child. First child is a way to select the first element. It's a CSS thing. It's a little more advanced than the person who's just learning HTML, but we will learn it in the future. So all it does is it just selects the first element of that section, and we'll just say margin left, make it 0. So now everything's aligned to the left. So that's much better way of looking at it. Also, we can define a couple of things. We could define, we could make the paragraph better. We could target the button and make it better. We could go, because this lecture is not CSS lecture. We're not going to go deep into everything when it comes to CSS. let's target paragraphs by the B tag, and let's say something like, maybe let's give it like a line height. So line height, let's make it something like 40 pixels. It's way too big. Let's make it something like 20 pixels, which is the normal way. Let's make it like 25, not 250, 25. Looks like it has a little more space. It's like two lines. It has some space, breathing space. We could also do different things. We could do something like text align. We could say justify, and that will make it so that it looks nicer and it takes the whole space here. And if you use Microsoft Word, you have seen that you could just say justify, and it will just fill out the whole page, the whole line. What else can we do? We could define the button and do something with it. So button right here. So we could define the button by just saying button. Button is semantic, so we don't have to do any class or anything. We could do a lot of things with it, but let's make it so that maybe the text is bigger. Font, text, no. Font size, I mean. Font size, let's make it like 40 or something. It's way too big. 20. We could do a lot of things with it, but that I'll just keep it at that. So, and also let's define the footer one. So we just need to have the same property for the footer navigation, as we defined it here in right here. So we just need to create a margin. We need to create a space between the texts, the navigations. So we say footer nav A, and that is right here at the bottom. So footer, actually we don't have a nav, so we just say footer A. A is the link, and then we'll just define it. Just say that, and then as you can see, it gives that. As we did above, we could just do the same thing. We could just say footer A, and then we could say first child, and give it margin 0, margin left 0, margin left 0. So it looks nicer. So that is semantic HTML, and that's kind of like how you construct a small HTML website. It doesn't look nice. There's a lot of things you could do. You could remove the underline from this text. You can make it nice, better, and make it, give it a button or something like that. Put here a logo. Make this image bigger. Maybe add something to it. So you could do so many things with it, and you can make it look as the way you want it. So there's so many ways to do it. That's where the creativity comes when it comes to web design and building websites. Okay. So Zakiri, you said the first list items seem that they have set as a display inline as a row. Oh, you mean okay. So did you mean the navigation? The navigation? Okay, so the navigation. Okay, so the navigation, they were not. They were just a link. So yeah, you're right. So you're right. So they look like. So the link usually has inline property. From what I remember, the link has a default inline property. So you're right. So the link does not have a block. So you're right about that one. So the navigation is different than the footer nav list. Okay, let's see. So yeah, it's a little bit different. So there's no nav in the footer. So that's the difference. That's the difference we see. But yeah, you're right. When it comes to the A tag, it's inline from what I remember. So you're right about that one. So okay. That's good. Okay. So any other question you guys have about this? Let me know. Let me look at the Slack. I don't see anything. You can send me a private message if you like in the Slack. Thank you. Thank you, Zakir. Any question you have, you could come to the mic, uh, and I'll try to answer, inshallah. So from now, just building that basic HTML web page. From my understanding right now, if you don't have any question, that means you understand how to do this. At least you have a concept of what uh, semantic HTML is. A lot of times it takes a little longer for you to grasp things. That's fine. It takes a little longer for you to understand things. So it takes practice. If you keep practicing, you will remember. A lot of times people ask me like, how do you remember all these tags? How do you remember like nav, header? What is the H1? How do you even remember that? How do you just write it down and remember that? This takes practice. So if you keep practicing, eventually it just clicks and you will understand how to write this. But also, you have to have a reference. So Google is your best friend. Every time you have any problem, or every time you think of creating something, go ahead and Google. Just say something like, if you go to Google and just type something like, create a navigation with HTML. That's it. So now you have so many results. W3 Schools is one of the best options. It shows you how to create navigation. There's so many ways to create navigation. There's a CSS. So make sure that you can Google whatever you're stuck in, and you could get out. If you're stuck and you can't get out, let me know. Use the 20-minute rule. But it's fine. It's fine to not remember these. It's normally fine. It's totally fine. Write down notes. If I was you, I'll just write down what all this mean. What is semantic HTML? What is the section? What does section do? Button. I mean, it's basically it's a button, but how to write it, the semantics. So how do you write a button? All that stuff. I'll just write it down, or I'll just take a note, or I'll just go back to the training material and like kind of like go through each one of them and see what they do. So practice. I mean, hands-on practice is the best way to learn. If you take my advice, is that's why we focus on projects every day, every week, projects, because I understand like the best way to learn is practice. So yeah, so that is the semantic HTML. How do you put in image? Okay, that's a good question. Okay, sorry, I should have went through that one. How do you put image? So let's actually we already have an image, but let's find a new image. Let's say something like let's get something like airport. So you could get it from Google if you want. So let's just get something like this.
Mhm.
Okay, and to put the image in a website, you have to have the image link. So you could just right click it and copy image address right here. Copy image address. That gives you the link right here. So the link of the image or the URL has to end something like .jpeg or .png or things like that, or .gif. So it has to end with the extension of an image. That's the only way to get the image. So we have this link. Now we go back to CodeBen. Let's say we want to put an image at the bottom, right before the footer. So right here. So what we will do is we will use the image tag. So we'll say image, and then we will use the attribute, just like the link, the a tag right here. We have attribute href. We have a attribute called source. So this is the source of the image, and then you say equal to, and then you put that image. I just clicked Control Z. No, Control Z is undo. Control V is paste. Control Z is undo. So, but you could just right click and paste it, and then you just close it like that. So, image is one of the tags that don't have a closing tag. It's a self closing tag. Um, it's a self closing tag. So if you go at the bottom, so you can see it's so big. So now we could actually define a couple of things here. So there is few things that you could define in image. you could define we could define something called alt. Alt is a text that shows when the image is not working or when you hover over the image. So we'll say something like airport. So now if we go to the image and we hover over it, it should give us airport, but it's not. Let's say the image is broken. So let's say let's close. Let's make it so that it's broken. If we go down, as you can see, the image does not show, but the alt text shows. The alt text is very, very important. Every image has to have alt text. The reason for that is for so many things. First thing would be just like the semantics Google. When Google comes to your website, a lot of times they don't even know what this image is about. They have, they have machine learning stuff, all that stuff, but they don't know in general. They don't know what the image is about. To make it easy for them, just describe the alt. So they will just read the alt, and they will say, "Oh, this is an airport." Okay, and then they will categorize your image in the Google search image right here as an airport. So that's one way they do that. Another way they do is they have AI, which actually looks at the image and knows if it's an airport or not. But that's kind of like the old way they used to do it. I mean, this is the old way they used to do it, but still they do it. They have it, and also screen readers. So the device that we talked about, screen readers. Screen readers, they also look at the alt and understand what this image is about. So sorry about that. Another thing we could define is let's actually correct the image. Another thing we could define is the width and the height of the image. So right here, we could just say width is equal to, let's say something like 500, just 500. You don't have to add pixels to it. So 500, you can make it as big as you want. You could just say 600 and it just becomes a little bit bigger, as you can see. But 500 is just something I guessed. So that means 500 pixels. So you could also put a height here. But usually height you put like arrow, but you could define height if you like. If you say 200, it's gonna squish the image. It's gonna make the image look weird. So 200. If you make it 500, it's gonna make the image square. So it's perfect. It's square. See, that's a square. So usually you either leave the height or you just say arrow. So we'll leave the height. Those are the kind of things you could define in image. You could also add class and ID and things like that in image. So it's important to learn how to like add image to places, how to like define the image, all that stuff. So thank you, Zakiri, for reminding me that image is important. Um, Okay, so thank you. So Zakiri is going ahead of me, and basically reminding me what I should do. Thank you very much. Yeah, so we don't have a lot of time, so let me just go over and show you guys what to do, the assignment, and where to start. Let me see somebody. Okay, so Ahmed said my video stopped. I can only hear your sound. Okay, sorry about that. There's gonna be a recording, so inshallah, if you missed part of it, you could watch that recording. So if you go to the training material and you go to the first section, you go to HTML, CSS, and you go to day one. So that's your assignment for today. I mean, that's your lesson for today. And you go all the way down. So just scroll all the way down. You'll see this section, daily reflection. So daily reflection just reminds you to submit your Airtable forms right here when you finish your assignment. So when you're done with the assignment and you finish it like tomorrow, submit your daily reflection. So that's really important, and you always have to remember that. Another thing would be the daily task. So whenever you understand the concept of everything, you're good to go, and you want to do the assignment, you come here, this section, and you click this link. So today it will take you to CodeBin. Other days it will take you to like GitHub. So right now we have a text here, a bunch of text. So this text is basically the same thing we had when we were starting the lecture. So the lecture when we started, we had just the text here and just the rest of the stuff. You don't have an image, so if you wanna do extra work, add image in here. and also make it look nicer. So you will follow this instruction. First thing you need to do is fork it. So fork means copy, fork this whole thing. So to fork it, you go all the way down. Let me see if I can zoom in. So you go all the way down to the at the bottom of code bin. You see a fork. Fork means you copy this whole code to your own code bin. Now, if you make changes to this code, I can make changes to it and it will stay permanent because I'm logged in. But if you're logged into your account and you come here and you just do your assignment, you just keep doing all that stuff, you finish it, and then you close the code bin or copy the link or close it, the changes you made is gone. It will not be permanent. So to make the changes permanent, you fork it, put it in your own account, create an account in Codebin, put the whole code. It will just copy this whole thing, the text and everything, into your own code bin, and then after that, you could start working on it. So step one, fork it. Step two, add semantics, just like we did. So you just go through these files and it's already defined for you. And by the way, Fatima Restaurant is a restaurant in San Diego. I used to live in there. They had a restaurant called Fatima Restaurant. So you create a website for them. So and I did talk to them, so they know the guy who owns it. He knows that we're using it as example. It's not a real website. So add semantics and make the whole thing look nice. So add CSS semantics as much as you can, make it look nicer. At least if you don't do a lot of things, at least use semantics. So make it so that it has semantics, HTML, and it looks nice. It has its space and all that stuff. So other than that, that's the MVP. If you just do the semantics, but if you add other things like CSS and add image to it and all that stuff, that's also extra and you get the 3 points, 3 point grade. So that is your assignment. So when you're done with this and you forked it and you did the whole work, you copy this link right here, and that will be your own link. You go to the form and you will fill out this form. So you just go here, choose your name from here. If your name is not in here, let me know. I can add it right away. Choose the assignment. So the assignment today is the first one. So eventually we'll have a lot of assignments, so you might forget. Usually what we do is we update the Slack. So if you go to the Slack channel, at the top of the Slack channel, it says the topic. So today, at the top of the Web01 channel, it says Gabi School Introduction and an Intro to HTML. That's the assignment for today. So every day you will see that, or every other day you see that. So you choose the assignment, put the link here, just paste it. Choose your cohort, which is the part time. Grade yourself. So if you did really good, grade yourself 3, and you went above and beyond. Otherwise, you could just grade yourself 2. So and then write something about what you went through. So if you had any obstacles, if something didn't work for you, if you were stuck, things like that. Um, Everything you could put it in here. If you figure out something and you think it's better way to do something, write it here. So just go all out and here, just write whatever you want. And it's optional, it's not must, but it's better to kind of reflect your day on what you did. So that's basically it. That and you submit it and you're done. And I will grade you the next day. So that's your assignment today. Go to here, read a little bit more, watch the videos, and then do your assignment. Start today. It's better to start today than late. I start tomorrow, so I would say just go ahead and get started today. And tomorrow 6 p.m. get back to it, and keep doing it. And six, I would say around like 9:30, we will do 9:30 p.m. tomorrow. We will do stand up. So stand up means we will just come together and you guys will introduce yourselves. Everybody will introduce themselves and they will talk about what they did for that day and how's the assignment going, things like that. So, inshallah, you'll be good. Yeah, so forking is the first step to do. So when you open the link so someone asked me, is forking before you do the semantic tags or after you finish? Forking is the first step. So forking is the first step to do. So because if you don't fork, everything you do will not make any sense. Uh, if you close the window, everything is gone. So forking means it's going to be yours and it will automatically be saved in CodeBin. And make sure if it's not automatically saved, there's a save button in here, right here. Click that. So that means it's going to be saved in your own account. So don't do something in somebody else's account. Always check here. Does it say your name? If it doesn't say your name, this is not your document. This is not your thing. So make sure that it says your name here. If it says Gabi School or something else, it's not your document. You can't edit that. You can just look at it, but you can't edit it. And if you edit it, then when you refresh it, everything's going to be gone. So that's one thing to be careful. Or any other questions you guys have? Any other questions before we close down? The time is up. We went through 2 hours. All right. Oh, someone raised their hand. Oh, go ahead. Go ahead. Take the mic.
Uh, yeah. So my question is that when I click on the link, it says Gabi School for mine. It doesn't say my name.
So when you click the link, what does it say?
It says Gabi School Pro right there, where you said it should say your name. It
Yeah.
says Gabi School right there.
So
So
at the
you mean
bottom,
so once you say, yep.
yeah,
So once I fork it, then that's my name, correct?
yeah, it should say your name when you fork it. So if you're logged into
Oh,
CodeBin, when you fork it, it should say your name right there at the top.
okay,
So
got it.
that's
Thank
how
you.
that's how you know you forked it and it's in your account. Yeah. Any other question before we close? All right. So I'll stop. Let me see. Someone send a chat. Okay. Oh, you have a question. Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead, Zakaria. Go ahead. Feel free. And also, we'll have a better discussion and everybody will get to know tomorrow. So if you feel like today is one sided, don't worry about it. Today, lectures are always one sided. And then tomorrow it's going to be your day and you talk about whatever. So we'll have 30 minutes. It could be longer, but we'll have 30 minutes and you could talk about whatever. And you could discuss with the group. You could ask questions. It's going to be your time. Yeah. So if you had an account before in CodeBin, feel free to use it. So any account you have is fine. It doesn't have to be pro account. It could be free account. So feel free to use the older one that you have. So Ahmed said, how many times can you submit the assignment? You could submit as many times as you want, but make sure that you submit the final one. So just to submit the final part of your assignment. So when you finish it and you're done with it, submit that one. If you keep submitting every time you do little changes, it's gonna be a lot of copies that we have to go through. But just the final one you finished and when you feel like you're done, submit that one, inshallah. But you can submit as many assignments as you want. Did you say we need to cartage CodeBin account to do assignment? Oh, we need to create. Yeah, you need to have a CodeBin account. So go to CodeBin, not CodeBin, CodeBin.io and create an account there. It's free, so and it's for developers too. So yeah, so create an account there, and inshallah, um, you could use that in the future if you want. We're not going to use for a lot of assignment. We're just going to use it for today and maybe tomorrow, the next assignment. But it's good to have always CodePen. So if you finished, Zakri said, I finished my assignment today. Am I free to go? So if you finished, yeah, you're free to go. If you finish your assignment, submit it. Submit the daily form, and I'll look into it. If it's finished and it's completed, I'll grade it. But if you finish your assignment, you don't have to do anything after that. You just have to come to tomorrow's stand up and we'll just talk. So you're free to go. So yeah, these assignments at the beginning, HTML and CSS, things like that, it might be a little bit easy for some people. because of their background of what they did before. So, and if you finished it, make sure, if you finish it quickly, make sure you go back to it and you add your personality to it. Just try to be a little bit extra if you want. Just go all go all, all above, and on board. Do little extra, and that will help you kind of like remember the assignment a little bit better. You could try different things. Just do extra. So we don't mind you going all above. Okay. Any other questions before we close it? All right. Thank you very much, all of you, for coming. Uh, okay, sounds good. So yeah, he said I was gonna go extra, but I just follow the rubric. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine with me. If you do the MVP, that's fine with me. As long as you're doing the MVP, I'm happy. So keep up. If you want to do extra, that's fine, but the MVP is the most important. So yeah, I'm gonna conclude it here, guys. Thank you very much for coming today. Thank you for listening to me for like two more than 2 hours. Inshallah, tomorrow it's gonna be your day, and we will talk. Inshallah. So take care. Inshallah. Have a good night, and take a break, and let this information simmer and sleep well. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Assalamu alaikum.